30-ball rallies. It's 2 balls. She's going to me. You're very quick. I'm going a normal speed. Ask any ref here, I go at medium pace speed. But she can't every single point.
To open this set.
I know, it's the rules. She's not allowed to sit.
Siegemund must have said something.
A WTA referee accused Coco Gauff of playing too fast during her first-round match at the 2023 U.S. Open, while her opponent, Laura Siegemund, repeatedly let the shot clock expire without meaningful punishment. Coco stepped up to the chair and demanded to know how that imbalance could possibly be fair, igniting one of the most controversial officiating flashpoints in recent tennis memory. The officiating felt so skewed that even the New York crowd turned sharply against the umpire before the full weight of what they were witnessing truly sank in. So what was it? Corruption? Incompetence? Or an official completely overwhelmed by the moment? Before jumping to conclusions, you have to understand exactly what unfolded on court, because the details make this situation far more troubling than it first appeared. This was the first round of the 2023 U.S. Open on home soil in New York, with a packed stadium firmly behind the American star.
She's never ready when I'm serving. She went over the clock like 4 times. You gave her time violation once. How is this fair? No, you're calling the score after the point is over. It's not like we're playing 1 point. You're calling the score like 6 seconds after the point is over.
Yeah, she's 100% right.
Coco Gauff entered the match as the clear favorite, not just to advance, but to make a deep run in the tournament itself. Yet from the opening exchanges, nothing flowed the way it should have, and tension crept into every changeover. Coco dropped the first set, and Siegemund immediately leaned into every disruption available, stretching time, breaking rhythm, and slowing the tempo whenever possible. That's precisely why the shot clock exists. Players are allowed 25 seconds between points to serve. No more, no less. It's a hard rule designed to keep matches honest and prevent deliberate stalling. According to Coco, and acknowledged by the umpire, Siegemund let the clock run all the way down 4 separate times. And yet, she received exactly 1 time violation from chair umpire Mariana Alves. 1. The inconsistency was glaring, and the frustration on court was impossible to miss. Meanwhile, Coco was serving at what she later described as a normal, controlled tempo. She wasn't rushing, wasn't trying to surprise her opponent, and wasn't bending the rules. She was simply playing at a reasonable pace, something that somehow became a point of complaint. Siegemund claimed Coco was serving extremely fast, even unreasonably fast, a claim that stunned just about everyone watching. Think about that for a moment. Playing at a standard rhythm became grounds for criticism, while repeated shot clock violations were brushed aside. That's not strict officiating, that's selective enforcement. Whether it stemmed from poor judgment or something worse, neither explanation reflects well on the chair.
Okay, well said. As if she didn't have the crowd on her side enough.
Well, she spoke her piece.
By the final set, Coco had reached her limit. She walked directly to the chair and confronted the umpire face to face. She laid out the facts clearly and calmly. She went over the clock about 4 times. You've given her a time violation once. How is this fair? Then she added, I'm going at normal speed. I go at medium pace speed. Those weren't emotional outbursts. They were pointed, reasonable questions rooted in the rule book. This wasn't disrespect. This was a player demanding consistency. Coco wasn't asking for special treatment or favoritism. She was asking for equal enforcement of the rules. The fact that she had to explicitly request that says everything about how unevenly this match was being managed. Only later did the umpire finally act, issuing Siegemund a point penalty for yet another time violation. But by then, the damage was done. The moment had already become a lightning rod for debate about fairness, authority, and how much control officials should wield over the flow of a match under the brightest lights in tennis. That point penalty suddenly put Coco up 5-1 in the deciding set, and everyone in the stadium felt the shift immediately. But instead of resetting and playing on, Laura Siegemund walked straight to the chair and lodged a stunning complaint. She said Coco was serving extremely fast, even unreasonably fast, insisting, "And I'm always here, and one time I go to the towel." According to that logic, Coco playing at a normal pace was unfair, but repeatedly pushing the shot clock to 0 was excusable because she needed a towel break. That's not how the rules work. That's not how any of this works. There is no rule against serving fast. There is no obligation to wait indefinitely for an opponent beyond allowing reasonable time to get set. The very existence of the shot clock is meant to prevent exactly the kind of delays Siegemund was creating, yet somehow Coco's rule-abiding tempo became the issue.
The first time I'm crying in a press conference, as a tennis player, you are a performer. You owe the people. You owe the kids that watch. And I'm just a bit, at the end of the day, I go home and I can look at myself and I can say, I did a great job. But did I get anything from the people for that? Even less than a 0, because they treated me bad. Like, they treated me like I was a cheater, like I was trying, sneaky ways to win this match or something. They treated me like I was a bad person. But there are people who are throwing rackets, who are screaming, who are making bad gestures toward the audience. I did not one moment in the whole match, and there was a lot of tension going on. Not one moment I did anything. I was just slow. And that's something in the rule. I get my time violation. That's fine. Yeah. No, I don't know.
The most baffling part? The umpire actually entertained the complaint. Instead of addressing the repeated violations, the focus drifted back to Coco, the player who had been following the rules all along. In a match already loaded with tension, that moment poured gasoline on the fire. To her credit, Siegemund didn't fold immediately. After the penalty, she rallied and clawed the score back to 5-4, and suddenly the pressure was enormous. Coco was one game away from a shocking first-round exit at her home slam, under the brightest lights and with everything on the line. The nerves were real and the stakes couldn't have been higher. But Coco held her ground. She served out the match, closed the door, and survived the chaos. And what followed makes this entire episode even more staggering. She didn't just escape the first round. She went on to win the entire tournament, capturing her first Grand Slam title at just 19 years old. Here's the part that makes this situation so infuriating. Coco almost never got that US Open title because an umpire couldn't or wouldn't apply the rules evenly. If Coco had lost that match after getting rattled by inconsistent officiating, her entire career trajectory shifts. No US Open trophy, no slam confidence, no momentum surge that reshaped her place in the sport. All of that nearly vanished because one player's blatant rule violations were treated as less important than another player's completely legal playing pace. That's not a gray area. That's a failure of enforcement. Let's talk about the officiating itself, because the numbers are damning. Siegemund allowed the shot clock to hit 0 at least 4 times, yet she received only 1 time violation. That's a 25% enforcement rate on a rule that is entirely objective. The clock either hits 0 or it doesn't. There's no interpretation required. It's displayed clearly for everyone in the stadium and watching at home. Even more troubling, meaningful action didn't come until Coco confronted the chair directly. And even then, the response felt delayed and reluctant. The point penalty that finally arrived was long overdue based on what had already occurred earlier in the match. That's not simple incompetence. That's choosing not to enforce the rules until public pressure becomes impossible to ignore. The crowd understood exactly what was happening. They booed the stalling. They backed Coco when she questioned the chair. They saw the imbalance, even if the official refused to acknowledge it. That crowd reaction likely played a role in forcing the umpire's hand. Looking visibly biased in front of a restless vocal stadium is not how authority is maintained. And then there's Siegemund's behavior after the match, which only added fuel to the fire. She complained about how the crowd treated her, saying they showed her no respect and treated her like a cheater and a bad person. She insisted she had done nothing against the audience and claimed she stayed calm the entire match. Except she absolutely did do things that invited crowd hostility, and pretending otherwise rewrites what everyone watched in real time. She repeatedly violated the shot clock. She leaned into every stalling tactic available to disrupt Coco Gauff's rhythm, and then she complained about her opponent playing at a normal pace, as if basic professionalism was somehow unfair. Those are not the actions of someone competing cleanly. That's textbook gamesmanship, pushing the limits, bending the rules, and then acting shocked when the audience reacts. To turn around afterward and play the victim over crowd response, that's rich. The crowd responded exactly how you'd expect based on what they saw. If you don't want to be viewed as a rule breaker, don't repeatedly break the rules. If you don't want to be booed, don't engage in obvious time wasting that's visible to every fan in the stadium. This wasn't subtle. It was happening in plain sight, point after point. Siegemund later pointed out that she never threw rackets, screamed, or made hostile gestures toward the crowd. Fine, that's the bare minimum of professional conduct, but meeting the lowest behavioral standard doesn't erase repeated rule violations. The crowd wasn't reacting to her attitude. They were reacting to her tactics, and they were justified in doing so. What makes this contrast even sharper is Coco's response under pressure. After the match, Coco admitted she doesn't enjoy confrontation and wasn't even sure whether she should speak up, until the same issue happened again and again. That shows restraint. Most players would have boiled over far earlier, especially in a first-round match at a home slam with everything on the line. Instead, Coco stayed composed. She approached the chair calmly, laid out the facts, and let the evidence speak for itself. And when the umpire finally began enforcing the rules properly, it confirmed what everyone already knew. Coco was right to speak up. And this wasn't an isolated incident in her career. Coco has faced multiple high-profile officiating controversies at critical moments. In a French Open semifinal in 2024, she was visibly emotional after an incorrect call went against her. At the Olympics, another disputed decision led to tears on court and later to her openly calling for rule changes. When moments like this keep stacking up, it starts to feel less like bad luck and more like a deeper issue with how officiating impacts players under the biggest spotlights. But back to that night in New York. The instant regret that must have followed for chair umpire Mariana Alves had to be overwhelming. She presided over one of the most controversial matches of the tournament. Her uneven enforcement of the shot clock rules created chaos, controversy, and nearly sent a young American star crashing out in the first round on home soil. And the twist? That same player went on to win the entire tournament. What should have been a routine early round match became a case study in how officiating decisions can almost alter tennis history, and how close the sport came to watching a Grand Slam story disappear before it even began, which only made the umpire's performance look even worse in hindsight. Imagine being Mariana Alves, watching Coco Gauff lift the US Open trophy, fully aware that your failure to enforce the most basic rule in modern tennis almost erased that moment entirely. Knowing that uneven officiating nearly derailed an iconic career milestone? That has to sting. That's instant regret in its purest form. And yet the WTA never publicly addressed the controversy. No explanation, no accountability, no acknowledgement. That silence is nothing new. Tennis organizations have a long history of avoiding scrutiny when officials make mistakes. Players get fined for racket smashes or emotional outbursts, but umpires who misapply rules or enforce them selectively almost never face consequences. That lack of accountability creates a dangerous culture. When there's no incentive to improve, poor officiating becomes normalized. The situation involving Laura Siegemund exposed a broader issue within tennis. Gamesmanship and time wasting have become accepted tools instead of violations that should be stopped immediately. Players stall between points, linger at towels, stretch medical timeouts, and disrupt rhythm constantly. And umpires often let it slide because stepping in creates conflict. But avoiding conflict doesn't create fairness. It creates an uneven playing field, especially for athletes who simply want to play at a normal professional pace. Coco playing at a medium, controlled tempo should never be controversial. That should be the baseline. The fact that it became a complaint says everything about how distorted tennis culture has become when it comes to pace of play. The shot clock was introduced to fix this exact problem. It was meant to remove subjectivity and make enforcement automatic. But when umpires refuse to apply it consistently, the clock becomes meaningless decoration instead of a rule. That's why the crowd reaction during this match was so revealing. Fans understood fairness instinctively. They could see the stalling. They could see the violations, And they could see the lack of enforcement. While officials hesitated, the audience reacted in real time, and they weren't wrong. That crowd pressure likely saved Coco's tournament. It forced the umpire to finally act. But players should never have to rely on a hostile or supportive crowd just to get the rules enforced properly. Fair officiating shouldn't depend on who's playing, where the match is held, or how loud the stadium gets. That's the minimum standard for any professional sport, and tennis falls short far too often. The 2023 US Open first round stands as a textbook example of that failure. What makes the story remarkable is what happened despite all of it. Coco didn't unravel. She didn't spiral. At just 19 years old, she survived being down a set, navigating a heated confrontation with the umpire, and facing an opponent determined to slow the match into chaos. That combination breaks most players. But Coco regrouped. She won that match, and then won 6 more. That US Open title wasn't luck, and it wasn't a fluke. That US Open title was earned through 7 rounds of elite, high-pressure tennis. And yet it almost never happened, because an umpire failed to enforce the most basic rules of the sport. That should bother anyone who cares about fairness, integrity, and competitive balance. Mariana Alves probably doesn't lose sleep over this match. Most officials don't. They move on to the next tournament, the next assignment, the next chair. But this is one moment she should sit with, because she came dangerously close to wiping out one of the most powerful stories tennis has produced in years. She should think about how long she waited to enforce an objective black and white rule. She should think about why repeated shot clock violations were ignored until a player was forced to publicly demand equal treatment. And she should think about how that officiating looked to millions of fans watching around the world in real time. That's what instant regret really means. Not a fleeting feeling, but a permanent reminder that officiating matters. Enforcing rules consistently matters. Giving players equal treatment under those rules matters. And on that night, in that match, those standards were not met. Mariana Alves failed on all counts during Coco Gauff's first-round match at the US Open. And the fact that Coco went on to win the tournament does not excuse that failure. It highlights how close tennis came to a disastrous alternate outcome. An umpire allowed Laura Siegemund to violate the shot clock 4 times while criticizing Coco for playing at a normal, professional pace. That imbalance produced one of the most lopsided and controversial officiating performances in recent tennis memory. Coco was forced to walk up to the chair and demand fair treatment before the rules were finally enforced. That should never happen in a professional sport. The regret must have hit hardest when Coco lifted the trophy, because that was the moment it became undeniable how close the sport came to losing something special. This wasn't just a bad call. It was a warning. A reminder that officiating can shape careers, alter history, and nearly erase moments that define an era. And that's exactly why this match still matters. Smash like and subscribe for more breakdowns of officiating disasters that almost changed sports history.